I consider myself hard to rattle, but in this case, well, I think after this last one, I am reconsidering my career choice. I will recount my latest misadventure, and you may see why both my friend and I are considering a new line of work now. It all happened about a month ago. We had just gotten a call to a new job. "Come on, Jake, get the stuff in the van, we gotta go," I shouted down the hall to my best friend and coworker as we scrambled to get all our cleaning supplies ready to go. "Alright, I'm coming, Jake shouted back as he pushed a small cart with buckets, mops, and the many varied cleaning agents we needed for our work. Jake and I operated a small business doing crime scene cleanup, and we had to bring our own gear, which was annoying sometimes when we had just cleaned the van and had to reload everything all over again. Fortunately, the pay was pretty good in our city, and we didn't mind. It was a dirty job, but someone had to do it, so why not us? And if we made some decent money along the way to clean up the morbid messes of some of the worst events, then so be it. Besides, we had become slightly desensitized to most of the gruesome details of the work, so it worked out. "Did you replace the red mop?" I asked Jake. "Oops, I didn't have time to get a new one at the store," he said with a half-hearted shrug. "Man, just order one from Amazon if you are going to be lazy about it. We can't use that broken one." I sighed and rolled my eyes at him and pushed the cart along to the van. "Did you remember the OxyClean?" Jake asked me. I fumbled for an answer and let a resigned "no" escape my lips before I saw him grinning. "Good thing I remembered it. Sometimes people forget. You gotta relax, man. Come on." He waved me along and we went out to the van. We loaded up and hopped in the van and sped off as quickly as we could to get there on time. We always prided ourselves on punctuality, and being late to a scene never looked good. We had been pretty busy recently, which is why we ended up taking a call right after we had tried to clear out the van. So I was hoping everything was there and that this one would not be too messy, but you never know. The details on the job were sparse, but often we did not get the really gory details. We just dealt with the environmental fallout that those details caused to the unfortunate home of whoever the tragedy had befallen. It looked kind of far out in a town I didn't recognize, still in our normal work radius, but I hoped we would arrive on time. Apparently, the owner of the estate didn't live there. After whatever event took place there, it's been locked up and there is a narrow window of time allotted for us to come in and take care of it while it is unlocked, so there's an odd time pinch on this one. I thought it must be a rich person and a nice house if they were so worried about security. Jake was driving and we were speeding along the interstate hoping to get to our exit before the traffic congestion got too bad. As usual, he was blaring Metallica as loud as the van's old speakers would crank it up to, head banging away. I knew it would be useless to tell him to turn it down since he wouldn't hear me, so I just did a quick, mental inventory of our supplies. I thought everything was accounted for. As I noticed our turn coming up, I grabbed Jake's shoulder and pointed. Being abnormally jumpy, he swerved the car at my touch and then finally turned off at the exit after almost sending us into oncoming traffic. If I had not buckled up, I would have been sent flying. "Whoa man, watch the driving, that was our turn and you almost missed it." But I didn't. "Relax man, it's all good, we are almost there." We drove on for a few more minutes into a rather bleak-looking town I had never been to before. The houses out here were spaced apart pretty far, and it was more rural than residential. I almost thought we had the wrong address at first, until we spotted a faded mailbox indicating that this was indeed 129 First Street. Driving into the lot past a tall iron fence, we moved on for what felt like another mile before finally seeing the impressive but faded glory of an ancient-looking Georgian manor. "Some digs," I mumbled out loud, impressed by the stature of the house. "Yeah, it is. That place is nice. They don't make them like they used to," Jake quipped. I was inclined to agree. It was a fabulous house. Though slightly faded paint and a roof showing signs of wear, it was otherwise still august and impressive. After we were done taking in the impressive sight, we looked at each other and nodded in unison. "All right, let's get to work." We parked outside and began unloading our supplies. From what the work order indicated, no one was currently living here after the event occurred. It was strange, though. I thought I saw out of the corner of my eye someone in an upstairs bedroom looking down at us and hurriedly closing the drapes. When I looked more directly up at them, I asked Jake to confirm. "Hey man, there was not supposed to be anyone here, right? Just a full cleanup, then get paid after it's done by whoever holds the estate, right?" He looked at the order again. "Yep, that's right. Not supposed to be anyone here. Why?" "It's nothing, just thought I saw someone," I admitted, doubting if I saw anything. "Okay man, well, hopefully no one's here. I forgot to bring the insurance." The insurance was what Jake called his .45 AMT hardballer that he often took to sites where there could sometimes be some sketchy people lingering or trying to loot estates where the owners had died. "Yeah, hope not. It's probably just my imagination. Let's get going." We pushed the cart along to the front door, and as expected, it was unlocked. We opened the front door, and there was a torrent of musty air that billowed out as the ancient door swung wide. Inside was equally impressive. Fine furniture sat in every direction. Expensive-looking drapes and art adorned the walls. The original hardwood looked almost new in its pristine state. They somehow managed to keep it in, considering this house could easily be 100 years old or more. As we looked around, we knew that the entry hall was okay. Nothing to clean here. In fact, it was immaculate. Damn, do they even need us? This place looks so good on the inside. Whoever keeps it up needs to give us some tips, assuming they aren't the ones who croaked, you know, Jake said, smiling at me as I suppressed a grin of my own. Gallows humor often spared us having to focus too much on the ramifications of the violent ends that these people suffered. Rich folks, no direct family to move in afterward. I am guessing maybe something messy, possibly suicide upstairs. A bathroom perhaps, or a bedroom, I speculated. This place is huge though. Where do you think the spot is? I asked Jake, looking around to see where we should go. Well, let's assume the classic rich person violent crime of a person discovers an affair coming home from work early, finds the two cheaters in the throes of passion, and shoots wife and husband, then their lover, then themselves. He paused briefly for effect with his arms raised. So, a bedroom then, I said, cutting him off. He frowned and laughed at me. Well, yes sir, if you want to ruin my dramatic delivery, a bedroom, bing bong boom, let's hit it. He started upstairs and I regarded the cart and the large staircase heading up. Let's leave it here for now until we know where we are taking it, I suggested. Yeah, sounds good, Jake said while rushing up the stairs. We checked a few rooms. This place must have at least 8 bedrooms. It was crazy. We found a room that looked like the master bedroom, and to his credit, Jake had likely called this one. In the room, there was much of what the other rooms had: fine furniture, expensive-looking art, drapes, and tapestries. But in this room's case, it also had blood staining the walls, the bed, the floor, and even what appeared to be hair, parts of a skull, and possibly brain from someone likely having been shot in the head. We both paused only for a moment, taking in the grisly sight. Then Jake broke the silence. Called it. That means you have to go get the cart up here. He turned to look at me with a maniacal grin plastered on his face. I hate you sometimes, but yeah, it sure seems like you've got the gift. I couldn't help but smile as well as I sighed and started on my way downstairs. As I started back down the hall, there was a strange draft of cold air that blew down the hall and the lights in the hall and bedroom flickered. I shrugged and figured a window might be open somewhere, and the wiring in a place this old could be badly out of date. I was making my way back down the upstairs hall to the stairs when I heard what sounded like a door slamming behind me. I wheeled around and looked but saw nothing. Jake, was that you? Stop messing with the doors, man. We have to get started soon, so you better be ready to get to work when I get back. It was starting to get colder in the house. As I walked toward the stairs, I wondered if there was a heater we could turn on. This seemed weird. As I reached the top of the stairs, I looked down near the entrance and saw that the cart was missing. What the hell? There was no one else here and we both left it right by the front door. Where could it have gone? I heard something strange coming from the other upstairs wing of the house that distracted me from the plight over the missing cart. It sounded like an old radio or some type of grainy audio quality device was playing a song. It sounded familiar. I started walking down the other hall instead of downstairs, and as the sound got louder, I recognized it. It was "Someday My Prince Will Come," the one from the Disney version of Snow White. I gasped aloud and checked myself. There must be someone else here who is playing that music. As I got closer to the door the music was coming from, I slowed my pace and heard a creepy murmuring voice. It sounded like they were humming along to the song. I decided that I needed to confront them and explain the situation, even though the whole thing was super weird. I needed to tell whoever this was, who we were, and importantly what we were here for, and hopefully see where they took our cart of supplies. I got up the door and it was ajar, so I leaned in and saw a figure in a white dress sitting at an old vanity and brushing their long, blonde hair with a fancy hand brush. In the corner of the room was an old record player, and indeed, the person seemed to be playing that old Disney song rather loudly, humming along and brushing their hair in some sort of trance. If they could hear me now or when I approached, they did not seem to indicate as such. I leaned in and decided the best course was to knock brusquely on the door and try to say aloud but not too loud to be disturbing. "Excuse me, ma'am." At the sound of my voice, the figure stopped brushing her hair and set the brush down. After a distressingly long pause, there was a soft exhale and the room seemed to chill suddenly. She stood up without facing me. To my surprise, despite the nature of the old record player, it seemed to stop completely once the woman stood up. I took a step back feeling uneasy. Then I heard a quavering yet gentle voice. "You won't leave me, will you? Not like he did. Not like they always do." I didn't know what to make of the question. I put on my best conciliatory voice and said, "Well, I am not sure who you are talking about, ma'am, but if you need help, we can certainly stay with you until help arrives. What is wrong? Did you see something? Or were you a victim in the incident that took place here?" I saw her shoulders begin to shudder and I thought I heard the trembling beginnings of crying. "You can't leave me. Not like they did. Not like they always try to. You can't. It is all too cruel." "It's alright, Mom, I will stay with you. I'm not leaving." The crying stopped immediately, and I heard her gasp and suddenly she sounded overjoyed. "I know that's why you came. I always knew you would come eventually. All the waiting, all the ugliness and violence with those other pigs. But you have finally come, my prince, just like in the fairy tales. It is true love this time. You will always be with me, not like those others who are false, those who lie and try to hurt me." There was a rising frenzy in her tone that unsettled me. "Okay, sure. Let me just call my friend down the hall so he can come here and maybe we can get some help for you if you need it, and we can see what happened here. What is your name?" The air felt like it left the room and her elated tone changed to one of brutal scrutiny. "Friend? That other person is your friend. He is in there, isn't he? The den of sin, in with them." The last word was dripping with threat. What did she mean by them? Is he a liar and cheater too? Will he betray you, just like they did to me? No, I won't allow it. I won't let anyone else hurt us now that we are together. We don't need help, we only need each other. She began crying again and turned to face me for the first time. I tried to temper my reaction to not alarm her, but I had a difficult time hiding my instinctual reaction. What I saw was the horrible and gaunt face of an emaciated woman missing her left eye and a large portion of her face. Knotted scar tissue and bruising indicated that some horrible injury had occurred to her. The sight of the injury, though gruesome, did elicit an initial feeling of sympathy from me, and I was afraid someone had done this to her. My contemplations on her appearance were broken when I noticed that she was no longer holding a brush, but to my horror, she was holding a handgun in one hand and a large knife in the other. She held both aloft in a weird gesture and spoke again. "Oh, my prince, you are so handsome. Come now, let us remove the only obstacle to our happiness. We need to cleanse the den of sin again. Your friend will betray you. Only I can give you the companionship you need, please." There was a sincere look of pleading in her eyes, and I could tell she was poised on the edge between joy and unmitigated fury. It all depended on my next choice of words. Whoa, now, let's not do anything crazy. How about we put those weapons down and we can talk? Yeah, I tried my best to be convincing in my attempt to express interest in talking with her, when every natural instinct in my body was compelling me to get the hell out of there. Jake is just my coworker and friend. He is not planning on doing anything to you or me. He is a good guy. You can trust him and you can trust us, but please, you need to put those down before we can help you. Anything crazy, crazy, she repeated with a deranged frenzy and a disturbing smile twisting onto her face. They always think you are crazy, always want to take and never give back, and I am the crazy one. No, only crazy for not doing it sooner to him, to them, and now you. I will show you crazy. You have 10 seconds to bring your friend here, or I will redecorate this beautiful floral wallpaper here with your brains. She continued, her voice becoming a tremulous whisper, almost like she was talking to herself. You sound just like he did. I knew it. I knew I couldn't trust you. The other one must be the price. The only way you can prove your love to me. If you don't do it, even by my prince, I will not be taken advantage of again. You can join the rest in death if you care so little for us. Oh God, I need to find a way out of this. I tried to retain my composure and I spoke as delicately as I could. Okay, there is no need to worry, my love. I will go down the hall and bring Jake to you. You just stay here and I will be right back, and we can be together, I promise. She paused and scrutinized me briefly before accepting the lie and waving me down the hall with a smile. Don't be long. The sooner it's done, the sooner we can start our lives together, just the two of us. She blew me a kiss and I shuddered at the prospect as I slowly walked down the hall. The song from the room began playing again, and I knew I had only a minute to decide how to proceed with this. I did not know how long she expected me to be, but I only had a matter of minutes to get to the room and explain the situation to Jake. I was cursing myself for leaving my phone in the car. I hustled down the hall and burst through the door. Jake turned towards me as I entered and started speaking. It's about time. What took so long? And where's the cart? Before I closed the door, rushed forward, put a finger to my lips and whispered a harsh shh. He looked confused, and I quickly tried to explain the situation. We need to go now. There is a crazy lady with a gun in the bedroom in the other wing upstairs, and she is going to kill us if we don't leave now. Jake smiled and shook his head. Nice try, man, but that one's a little crazy. You should have gone with ghost kids or something harder to disprove if you were going to pull a fast one on me. I grabbed the front of his shirt and reasserted, Dude, I am not joking. We need to leave now. Jake's playful facade finally disappeared and he considered the reality of the situation. Oh hell, man, you aren't joking. What are we gonna do? Where is she? She is down the hall waiting for me to come back, and I am pretty sure she wants to kill you and not let me leave here ever again. I told him matter-of-factly. Oh, is that all? Jake said, attempting to break the tension even in a crisis. Alright, then you lead the way. God damn, I knew I should have brought the insurance. I peeked down the hallway before exiting and silently gestured for Jake to follow. We crept down the hall, trying to avoid making any noise and not having any idea at what point the woman in the room might peek out to check what was taking so long. We made it to the stairs and began slowly descending them, trying to avoid the ever-present creaking steps that were often prominent in old stairs like these that had seen so many footfalls over a century. We almost made it too, but near the bottom, as we were almost to the landing, my full weight went down on my left foot as I was trying to feel for the creak, and I missed it entirely, and it let out a terrible creaking groan that broke the silence. The brief moment of hushed silence as we stood there frozen was broken by the sound of a door being thrown open upstairs. Run, I shouted back at Jake as we both leaped off the stairs and sprinted for the doors. We reached the front door, grasped the handle and attempted to pull the door open. It would not budge. Someone locked it. She must have locked it, I cried, not wanting to look back but not having a choice now. Jake continued fumbling with the door while I looked up at the top of the stairs to see the grim visage of the woman in the white dress. Thick makeup was running down her face, streaked by fresh tears. She was sobbing at first as she began screaming at us. I trusted you. You were supposed to stay with me. She wiped her eyes and started again louder than before. You were supposed to be better than those other ones. You were supposed to be my prince, but I see now you are just a villain. Someday he will come, but I need it to be perfect when he arrives, and you, as you have proven, are an imperfection." I was horrified by the maniacal gleam in her remaining eye, and she stared down at us, aiming the pistol down at us. We both held up our arms, and just then Jake stepped forward. "Please forgive the imprudence, but you have the most beautiful hair," he told her, speaking clearly and smoothly, masking any fear he may have felt. She looked at him and her vicious facade broke momentarily. What did you say?" Jake followed up, saying. "Yes, you are a truly stunning beauty. My friend is truly blind if he did not see that. Perhaps I am the prince that has come to sweep you off your feet." He bent down in a sweeping bow while holding out a hand in her direction. I looked at Jake and started to mumble, "What the hell are you doing?" Before I could say another word, he gave me the look that I had come to know as the "don't ask questions, just play along" look that he had perfected when he was going to try something. "Come down here, my sweet, and we can dispose of this man who has wounded you so, and we can be together here forever." To my surprise, the woman put a hand over her mouth and blushed. Then she returned to her previous happy giddy state and began descending the stairs. I hadn't dared hope, but maybe I have found you, the true prince who arrives with the false one. Yes, how fitting, now a chance to cut out the corruption of the liars and deceivers. She got about halfway to us and paused. "Yes, cut out the corruption, prove yourself, prove your love." She emphasized the word cut when she spoke and threw the knife she was holding on the ground near Jake and then pointed at me. "Cut out his lying tongue, and that will prove your loyalty to me and only me. Then we can kill him and send him to the place where all the liars and cheats have gone before." She did not lower the gun and kept it pointed more at me than at Jake now. He bent down to pick up the knife, and he must have seen the perplexed look of desperation on my face. I did not know how exactly we were going to get out of this alive. He looked at me, then looked down to his other hand in his pocket, and then sidelong at the door. Suddenly, a blaring car alarm started sounding outside. Without missing a beat, Jake tucked the van's fob back into his jeans and turned to the woman. "Someone else must be here. They triggered the van's motion alarm. What should we do, my lady?" He kept up a deferential tone that somehow convinced the deranged woman that he was really going through with all this. She looked panicked and had clearly not accounted for more people showing up right now, or at least the impression that they were. "No, not more. I can't keep doing this." She pulled on her hair and started hyperventilating. I looked over to Jake and he held up a hand when I started moving towards her. "Hold on a moment, my lady. Perhaps we should hide until the trespassers leave and then we may resume what we have started here." She paused briefly, considering while still aiming the gun at us. "All right. You behind him, back upstairs. There is a place I have been using to hide from the illegitimate heir to this estate." She gestured for us to head up the stairs, me first, then Jake still holding me at knife point while she kept the gun trained on us. At first, she was further behind us, but on the stairs, she ended up getting closer to Jake, and that's when we made our move. Jake wheeled backwards and managed to elbow the woman in the head, but not before she had discharged the weapon and sent a shot into the banister. She tumbled down several stairs and Jake himself was off-balanced and fell back as well. I turned around and saw the woman regaining her footing and saw that she still held onto the gun. I hopped onto the banister and slid down the rest of the way into an awkward kind of tumble-turn tackle as I charged into her just as she was leveling a shot at me. The gun fired. I thought it had gone wide as I hit her, but I felt a terrible pain near my collarbone and knew she hadn't missed this time. Despite the pain, I tried to land on her and hopefully knock the gun loose. I saw it clatter a few feet away and knew it had worked. Jake leapt forward and grabbed the gun, but as he was sitting up to train it on her, she leapt at him, and to my horror, I saw she had reclaimed the fallen knife and had stabbed Jake in the arm, causing him to drop the gun. She wailed as she tried to stab Jake even more. You two, all of you." I had to stop her. I charged forward, leading with my leg in a brutal pushing kick, and it worked. Just as she was stabbing down at Jake's chest, I kicked her off, and she was sent sprawling, cracking her head on a decorative pot. There was a shattering sound as it broke and a cracking sound more subtle than that, which might have indicated the pot was not the only thing that broke. She lay still after that. "What the hell, man? Are you okay?" I asked Jake as I bent down to try and pick him up. He was heaving and covered in blood from several superficial stab wounds. Think we can get time and a half if we clean up our own crime scene in the first one. He winced as he tried to smile through gritted teeth. My heart was hammering in my chest and I was still horrified about what had just happened, but I couldn't help but facepalm at the absurdity of the statement. "Never change, you crazy bastard," I told him as I slumped down and noticed the blood welling around my shoulder. My arm was starting to go numb. That's probably not good. I wanted to rest, but I had to make sure we were no longer in danger. I approached the prone form of the woman and checked her. She looked like she was still breathing, so I promptly tore some curtains down and used them as makeshift binding. After securing her, we found the key to the lock on the front door and made it to the van to our phones to call for help. After calling 911, we made our way back in and were horrified to see the woman was gone, the cloth-draped bindings laying on the ground where we thought she had been secured. A bloody message lay there as well, crudely spelling out "someday." We were speechless and fell back slowly out of the house, looking in every corner, in every shadow, not knowing where she had escaped to. Once we were outside again, Jake sat up against the door bracing it, and I went to the van and pulled out the broken handle for the red mop. I went up to the door and wedged it into the handles to block it from opening. Good thing we brought it after all, I mused as I slumped down trying to keep pressure on my bleeding shoulder. "Yeah man, it must be a sign or something," Jake said as he walked with me to the van where we waited in nervous vigilance until help arrived. The police and an ambulance arrived about 45 minutes later. I figured it was a good thing we didn't need their help to survive this, or we would have been dead with that response time. Both Jake and I had to be taken to the ER for our injuries, and after we were later discharged in the following weeks, we learned what had happened. The woman who attacked us was also the perpetrator of the crime scene we had been sent to clean up. She had apparently killed her husband when she caught him cheating with another woman. She had also attempted to end her own life afterward, but had failed. I winced when I remembered her ruined eye and the wound on her face. She had somehow survived the attempt and had hidden from the authorities in a yet undisclosed panic room that existed in the house somewhere. The bodies had been removed and the investigation and manhunt were ongoing, and authorities had assumed she had fled the residence. Unfortunately, she had remained, and when the husband's brother, an estate holder, had called us in to clean up after the initial tragedy, no one knew that she was still there until it was too late. The part that disturbed us though was that this information was gleaned from a recovered journal she had been keeping, and despite police completely ransacking the place looking for her, she was never found. She is still out there somewhere waiting to find her prince. Someday. I shuddered at the prospect and began having doubts about my continued work in this field. Jake and I are doing okay now and have mostly recovered. We are both going to look into a different line of work after this, something a little less violent crime adjacent. You see some crazy shit in this sort of work, but this one was beyond the pale. What do you think? Anywhere interesting hiring?